Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this webinar. So I think it's I have 9:06 right now. So as more people start to roll in, uh, we can start to kick things off. So uh, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Women at the Table virtual breakfast and learn. My name is Darren Polanco. I am the manager of donor relations and corporate campaigns for United Way of Greater Union County. So just as a little background, as an organization, it is United Way's mission to improve lives and build strong communities. We have 39 nonprofit partner agencies that help us to provide critical resources to children and families by focusing on education, income stability, health, and family strengthening. And as an example of our work, recently due to the drastic state of food insecurity that United Way residents are in Union County residents are in right now. We actually have a partnership with Amazon Logistics, and we host weekly food distributions that serve, on average, 900 families a week. Today's webinar is brought to you by our Women United Leadership Initiative. And to share more about this initiative and to introduce our presenter today is our chairwoman of Women United, Phyllis Mirabella.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I suspect that we're going to have some folks coming in. We are masters of multitasking, so I am sure that the strong women of Union County, Greater Union County, and the surrounding, even outside of the state, I understand we have some participants, will be in and out, and we'll welcome them and be thrilled that they're here. A little bit about Women United. It is a local and national initiative of women philanthropists fighting for the health, education, and income stability of women across the world. That's right, across the world. Here in Union County, we seek to improve maternal and child health conditions, as well as early childhood development. To become a member of this group and to help local mothers and children, please visit uwguc.org/women-united. I've asked Liz as the host to put that link in the chat. So please, if you would, after the breakfast, please take a look at that page. But right now, I am very excited to introduce our presenter, Liz Nolly Tillman. For the past 30 years, Liz has served as a marketing and communication advisor to C-level executives at some of the world's largest and most successful companies. She's on a mission to share the unspoken rules of corporate America and other insights from her journey through her coaching practice, workshop, and published works. Liz has authored a book entitled Great Work, Great Rewards, 7 Secrets for Breaking the Performance Punishment Cycle, which is a definitive guide for top performing employees who feel like the only reward they get for doing great work is to do more work. So Liz, thank you very much for being here. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Oh, Phyllis, thank you so much. And Darren, thank you guys so much for having me. And I have to acknowledge my sorority sister and your Women United board member, Dewana Graham, for connecting us. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm seeing lots of familiar faces in the chat. So thank you all for being here. I can't say hi to everybody, but and for those I haven't met yet, thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. But as we do, let me just make note that this call is being recorded, so we will make the replay available. And just if you can see my screen, can you just let me know, Phyllis or Darren? Okay, all right, wonderful. So let's see if I can advance the slide, then we are in business. So great. So welcome everybody and thank you for being here. Today, we're gonna start off with a little bit of networking and just to get a little bit warmed up and get the juices flowing. We'll do an icebreaker and break out into some smaller groups so you all can do some networking and get to know each other a little bit better. Then we'll talk a little bit about some life lessons that I know I was raised with, and they're great advice, but in a corporate environment, they sort of create some pitfalls that could potentially be holding us back without us even being aware of them. And then we'll talk about how we can retool ourselves for success and cover 3 key strategies that are often overlooked or underutilized by the professionals who need them the most. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A and close out with a little networking at the end. So that's our agenda for the day. So this is the exercise, and after this, you'll break out into smaller breakout rooms and kind of chat about it. So in your small group, you'll have 5 minutes to kind of just go around the horn, and it's a little exercise called roses, thorns, and buds. And basically you pick a rose, which is a win or recent success. It could be personal, professional, whatever it is, whatever's important to you, and you share that success. But roses are wonderful, beautiful things, but they also have thorns. So with that success, think about a challenge or an area of opportunity that came with that success and share that. And then often when we accomplish things, it sparks new ideas and creativity, which is the bud, which is also a part of the rose. So you share your rose, your thorn, and your bud. Just to get you guys started, I will go first to show you how it might be done. And so for me, we just finished a major home improvement project at my house. We put this huge raised paver patio deck on the back of our house, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful. It's become sort of the crown jewel of our property. So that's our rose, but the challenge that came with that was, especially for doing all the work that I've been doing at home in this virtual environment for about 4 to 5 weeks. It was all, you know, like construction and noise and dust and all kinds of interesting things happening in our backyard that made it kind of challenging to work and maintain through that time frame. And so that was the challenge of that. But the buds that having that project done has sparked include, now I have this awesome new outdoor workspace. So now I'm thinking, okay, when I'm doing my YouTube videos to promote my business, maybe I got a new location, I can go out there. Or if I'm just doing regular work, maybe I can go out on the deck, or if I need a break, I can go out there and do some yoga or whatever. So now I'm thinking it's sparking all these different ideas of what I can do and how I can use that brand new space. So that would be my rose, bud, and thorn, okay? So with that as an example, I'm gonna open the breakout rooms. Like I said, I'll keep them open for 5 minutes, and happy networking. I'll see you guys in 5. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully we all got to share each other's roses, buds, and thorns, and you guys got a chance to get to know each other a little bit. And if you didn't get a chance to completely get to know each other as much as you like, don't worry, we'll be breaking out again a couple more times before our time together this morning is over. I'm not going to rehash my bio because Phyllis did a fantastic job of introducing me. But I will say that when I formed my coaching practice, as she said, I realized that while I was very technically proficient in my career and I was very good at my craft, which is marketing, communications, writing, editing, that sort of thing, strategic advising, that there were some unspoken rules of the road that I didn't even know were things and that I had to learn, and took me a long time to learn it. So I've dedicated my coaching practice to accelerating those learnings and sharing those insights with other people to accelerate their pathway to success. And so she mentioned my book, which we'll talk a little bit about performance punishment in a minute. But I also have this on-demand coaching platform for mid-level to senior executives looking to level up. It's sort of like a Netflix for people looking to earn their seat at the table. I release different videos and training and resources and things like that on there every month. So if you're interested in that, you can go to it's called Your Folding Chair, as a hat tip to Shirley Chisholm, who famously said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So you can check that out at liznollytillman.com or yourfoldingchair.com for more information. But like I've said, I have great parents, and I think my mom is on. Hi, Mom. I saw you on earlier today. And I have a great village, quite frankly, and a lot of you all are on this call this morning. So thank you so much for being here. And they raised me with life lessons and values that have served me extremely well in life. But like I said, corporate America is sort of not real life. It's sort of like life elevated. And some of those same lessons came with sort of another side that I wasn't even aware of that may have jammed me up a little bit. And so as I go through, I think there's 6 or 7 of them. What I'd like for you guys to do is chime off in the chat. And if any of these, if you've heard any of these, or if you were taught any of these coming up, or if any of these resonate with you, just let me know in the chat. And if you have others to add to this, go ahead and put those in the chat. So the first one that I was raised with, and maybe you've heard this one coming up, was get a good education so you can get a good job one day. And by good education, typically that meant go to college, right? Because high school is sort of just a given, right? and you're legally required to be there until you finish anyway. So, and getting a good job is, you know, one that you could go and stay forever and then retire and live happily ever after. So I need to pull up the chat so I could see. Oh yeah, so I see some of you guys have heard this one. So the downside to this one, or the other side to this one, is that college isn't necessarily for everybody. I've got one in my house at college, you know, she's still trying to figure out if college is for her, and that's okay. Some people will go to the military, some people will learn a trade, others may even start their own business or nonprofit or do whatever it is they're called to do. But if you hear that the pathway to success equals college equals good job, you know, like that may bring up a little bit of cognitive dissonance for you, because college isn't necessarily for everyone. And the whole good job thing, I don't know anybody. I don't know too many places where you can go and work forever. It used to be you could always get steady work at the post office, and even that's not a given anymore. So, so that's the other side to that one. So yes, I see a lot of people are saying they can relate to that one. So that's great. Let me see if I can click on this. So here's another one. Work hard, but you got to be twice as good to get half as much. Almost everybody I know who looks like me, and you can interpret that however you want, has heard this one coming up. And it's exceptional advice. Because, you know, some of us have to show and prove a little bit more because nothing's handed to us, right? So, and that's all good. But the issue with this one is sometimes if we accept the fact, when we find out that maybe the guy or the girl in the cube or the office down the hall from us is doing the same pay, is getting more pay for the same work, it's very disheartening. As a matter of fact, you know, I was taught this long before phrases like wage gap, pay equity, and things like that were part of the vocabulary. And yeah, people are saying 100%. Yes, absolutely, says Melanie. So, so a lot of you guys have heard this one. And the issue with this one is sometimes we say, well, you know what, that's just how it is. Yeah, mama said that's how it goes, you know. And no, like the whole point of this thing is that you want to be just as good to get just as much, right? So we want to avoid sort of accepting this one, even though it is excellent advice to prepare you for the realities of the world. But, you know, we're trying to fix the world, right? So that there's no such thing as a place where, you know, a woman or a Black person or a person of color is only earning 60, 70 cents on a dollar based on, you know, as compared to their male and usually white male counterparts. So Here's another one. Be true to yourself and remember whose you are. Remember that village I talked about, right? Know where you come from, right? You may have heard some flavor of that one coming up. And again, great advice, right? Yes, indeed. Yes, says Therese. So, you know, the trouble with this one is that's all good until you get to that corporate environment and you notice that there's a uniform. It's not a uniform like with your name on it like you get if you work at the fast food restaurant, but there's a uniform. There's a way that you're supposed to dress. There's a way that you're supposed to talk. There's a way that you're supposed to even wear your hair. States have gone so far as to legislate Black women's hair and what you can and cannot do. Like there's all kinds of lawsuits around that and articles, and I won't get into all of that, but sometimes it's really, really hard to be yourself and survive and thrive in a corporate setting. Sometimes those things just don't align, right? So sometimes that one's really hard for that reason. And here's another one. Work hard and the rewards will come. Well, like Phyllis said, I wrote a book about that, how sometimes the only reward for great work is more work. And, you know, as the name of today's session suggests, great, you know, doing, you know, working hard isn't necessarily the only pathway to success. So here's another one. Maybe you guys, some of you guys can, yes, Angie says, yes, unspoken uniform and unspoken set of rules. Absolutely. So here's one. This one's all about the isms. So you might encounter the isms, and you guys know the isms: racism, sexism, ageism, whatever ism, right? But despite those isms, know that you've earned your seat, earned your spot anyway. Why? Because you've done everything we just talked about. You've gotten the right education, you've worked hard, you're doing your thing, and you're doing all the right things. The trouble with this one is that sometimes if we're not careful, sometimes it's not the isms that are holding us back. Sometimes it's our mindset. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the two. A lot of times we, you know, blame the isms instead of, and I'm not saying that the isms aren't real, because they are, but we have to get to a point where we could distinguish when it's the isms at play and maybe when it's our mindset or something else actually happening. Work hard, but play hard too. We all, I know I've struggled with this one for forever, and I've always been well, I work hard and play hard. That's part of my interview spiel when people, you know, ask you certain interview questions and everything. But the trick with this one is, and as your first speaker, the coach that was here for your last breakfast meeting, did a whole session on work-life balance. It's very elusive. It's very difficult to attain, especially if you're a caregiver to a pet, a child, and a relative, elder care, or whatever it is, or the more responsibilities you have, the harder this is to actually achieve. Working hard and playing hard. Work-life balance it ain't easy. So that's the downside to that one. And I love this one. You can have it all. You can have a life partner if you want one. You can have kids if you want them. The house, the picket fence, the dog, the cat, the goldfish, emus, whatever you want to do. Like, you can have it all. That's the whole, whatever the American dream means to you, you can have it all. And again, that's amazing advice, right? No limits, right? We don't want to raise our children with limits. And I wasn't raised with limits. But the pitfall here, if we're not careful, is that when reality happens and life happens and we, you know, things get tough and we realize, man, you know, or you look at your Instagram and you see these influencers out there living their best life and doing their thing, you're just like, how in the world do they do it? Well, they've got teams and resources in place. You can have it all, but it's hard, but you got to work at it and you got to plan at it. You got to know how to establish boundaries. You got to learn how to multitask. You know, you got to make sure you got the right team in place at home and at work. Like, it's not just something that naturally and magically happens. Like, having it all takes work. And we can't get depressed or down on ourselves or think that we failed if we're not having it all based on however we happen to define it. So those are just a few things that kind of went into my programming. And like I said, it served me very well in corporate America. And I'm so glad that so many of you guys could relate to some of these life lessons. And the thing is that despite doing all of these things and taking all of this amazing advice that I was lucky enough to be given coming up, this would happen. I still would catch a case of performance punishment. And performance punishment, just to get into it a little bit more, is, you do that impossible thing, that thing that they said couldn't be done because you're an achievement-oriented professional, right? So you find a way to get it done. And then what happens is this unrealistic, outrageous expectation gets foisted upon you. And so doing the impossible becomes normal. Oh yeah, that's just how she does things. Yeah, I'll just have Liz do it. I'll have Felicia do it. I'll have Margit do it. I'll have Margaret do it. I'll have Angie do it because she can get it done, right? And then that leads to all kinds of feelings of frustration and overwhelmed. But you know what? You can't drop the ball. Why? Because you're that high performer, high achievement oriented professional, and it's just not in you. You're not wired to slack off. You're not wired to allow yourself to drop the ball. And so what winds up happening is you keep getting asked to do the impossible over and over and over again, while your coworkers, you see them saunter in at 9:01 and leave at 4:59 every day. And here you are coming in early and staying late and doing your job, their job, this job, that job. And it just becomes totally overwhelmed. And this becomes your new normal. And ultimately, what winds up happening? The cycle keeps repeating. And if you can relate to that, let me know in the chat, because this was something that I frequently encountered in my corporate journey, which is why I wrote my book about that. And Phyllis says, yes. Gladys says, happens to me all of the time. Okay. The other thing that I learned too in my corporate journey early on was, I still, even though I was working hard and being that go-to person on the team and everything, that my head kept hitting up against that glass ceiling over and over and over again. Like I got to a certain point in my career and I couldn't break through to that next level. And I didn't know why. But the more I learned, and when I got coaching and good guidance and mentorship and better coaching and self-reflection and started, the more I started to learn, what I realized was that hard work wasn't the problem. It wasn't that I needed to do more. I was already working hard. Tawana says, if you're not sure, you should be mad at yourself or others who are going to be home on time. That's right. You got to establish those boundaries. Story of my life, indeed. So it wasn't the fact that I needed to work harder. That wasn't the issue. And my educational background wasn't the issue either. I had gone to some of the best schools, and I had, I got my bachelor's, got my master's, and it wasn't my technical skill set either. I was an excellent writer. I was an excellent strategist. I was doing the work. Proof of that was they kept piling more work on me because I was able to do it, right? So that wasn't the issue either. What I realized was there were what they call softer skills that I needed to develop and put in my toolkit in order to thrive and break through to that next level in my career. And here's 3 of them, and we're going to look at each of these in a little bit closer, a little bit closer as we go on. But I needed to learn how to advocate for myself more effectively. I needed to build a team. At this point in my career, I didn't even know that I needed a team. I didn't even know having a team was a thing. Okay. So I had to learn that I needed to build my team. We'll look a little bit about who should be on your team. And I definitely did not have clarity of my purpose. I wasn't clear on what my why was at that particular point in my career. So let's just take these one by one. We're going to take these one by one. self-advocacy. So what do I mean by self-advocacy? Autism Speaks has this amazing definition, which I think has major relevance to those of us navigating corporate settings and corporate environments. But self-advocacy involves speaking up for yourself and learning to ask for what it is that you really need in a particular situation, and being able to negotiate your terms, your conditions, to make sure that your standards are met. And to do that, you've got to know what the resources are that are available to you, utilize those resources, and you got to know your rights and your responsibilities in a particular situation. And it's about being able to articulate clearly what it is that you need and what your issue is, so that the person or people or those in a position to help you get that understand exactly where it is that you're coming from. So I think this definition is fantastic. However, to men, it seems pretty straightforward, right? You're probably saying, yeah, duh, okay, no news here. But for some reason, a lot of us are reluctant to advocate for ourselves. And I'm just curious, like, put it in the chat if you've ever been reluctant to advocate for yourself. What are some of the reasons why you might not advocate for yourself at work? Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's politics, sometimes, maybe you don't want to look bad. I don't want to be a pest. Somebody said it's, Gladys said it's politics. Phyllis said, I don't want to be a pest. Yeah, there's all these reasons. And you're taught to be grateful for the opportunity. Oh, Dewana, that's a really good one. Esther says, definitely fear. Therese says, at times it may appear as weakness or an inability to complete the task. Yeah, so all of those are great reasons. But I tell you what, the male executives that I've worked with the last 30 years, nothing stops them from advocating for themselves. I think this is one of these situations where we as women, for whatever reason, we are reluctant to advocate for ourselves for all the reasons that you guys said. And Dewana, everybody's saying yes, like totally on point. You're taught to be great, that you're grateful for the opportunity. I worked someplace where the manager's favorite refrain there was, well, at least you have a job. And I was like, like, you're doing me the favor, but okay. So I think it's to get past that way of thinking. I think it's important to understand what self-advocacy is not about, because sometimes the way that we view self-advocacy makes us hesitant to practice self-advocacy. So let's just be clear. Self-advocacy is not about anything you see on the screen. It's not about being self-centered or arrogant. It's not about being that sleazy salesperson at work who's always self-promoting and throwing other people under the bus. And these last three, I love this. So working your resume into every conversation. I don't know if you guys know this person who does this. When I was at Harvard, well, at Stern Business School, we did or when I was the chief cook and bottle washer at such and place, we did right. They dropped their credentials like they're proving something to everybody. I don't know if you know anybody that drops their resume into every conversation like that, but that's not effective self-advocacy. That's more in the realm of self-promotion. So don't do that. Nobody cares what your resume is. They all assume that you have hilarious. Somebody says, okay. So maybe some of you guys know that person, but don't do that, because everybody assumes that you are in the room for a reason. The company hired you in whatever role that you have because of your resume. So check the resumes out the door. We're past that point. What they want to know is, what can you do for me now? What have you done for me lately? And what can you do for me tomorrow? Right? So it's really about, so it's not about working your resume into every conversation. So if you were one of those persons, or you know somebody that does that, don't do that. It's not about being apologetic either. As women, you'd be amazed at how many women I'm in, because I've never heard a man do this, but if they want to ask a question at a meeting, they say, I'm sorry, but can I ask a question? I'm sorry, can I ask a question? you know, or they're apologetic in their approach, whereas the men would just say, I want to ask a question here, or they just raise their hand, wait to be acknowledged, and they ask a question, right? So so it's not about being apologetic, and it's not about automatic outcomes. Just because you shine light on some amazing thing that you did, it doesn't guarantee that success or reward is going to be an automatic response to that. So self-advocacy is not about any of these things. So if you think that it is, let that thinking go, because it might be holding you back. So what self-advocacy is about, and there's some great insights in the chat about what this is about, but among other things, it's about speaking up for yourself, regardless of the reaction that you might get. I once had to go toe-to-toe with a president of a business unit, and I was like maybe a director. Like, so he was about like 10 pay grades above me, and he was one of these fiery types and everything. And I was like, I'm not going to let this man bully me. I'm not going to let him put me aside. So I had already decided what I was going to say to him, regardless of the consequences. And the HR lady was in the room with me. And I just said, you know what? I don't care. I might get fired today for speaking out against this man and putting him in his place. But I had my script I had my messages that I wanted to hit. And I just went in there and I stood up for myself. And the HR person, well, you know, it was kind of this awkward silence in the elevator when we were going back to my boss's office afterwards to tell her what happened. And I said, am I going to get fired? She was like, absolutely not. All you did was advocate for yourself. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so, you know, I overcame my own fear of speaking up for myself. So it's about, you know, I have this thing that I practice now called the head on the pillow test. Like, I ask myself, you know what, if I'm quiet in this situation, I don't speak up, and if I don't do something, am I going to be able to sleep at night? And if the answer is no, I won't be able to sleep at night because it's going to be weighing on me, or I'll wake up tomorrow with a case of the woulda, shoulda, couldas, I'm going to act on it. I'm going to speak on it. And I use that all the time. And now I have a no regrets approach to life. So anyway, it's about self-empowerment. It's about taking care of yourself, because if you don't learn to advocate for yourself, you'll be stressed out, and stress can have mental and physical implications, and you want to love yourself. So it's really about self-care. It's about gaining visibility for your personal brand and all that represents at your job. And it's about making sure that other people know what your requirements and your standards are, and requiring them to step up and meet those because of the value that you add every day. It's about holding space for yourself, being assertive, not aggressive, but being assertive when you need to be. And ultimately, it's about confidence and having the right mindset and taking better care of yourself in the office. And finally, you don't have to ask permission to advocate for yourself, okay? I have yet to see any male CEO that I've ever worked with has never asked permission to advocate for themselves. They just advocate for themselves, which is how they get to where they. So as women, we've got to let some of these things go and stop waiting for permission, and just represent for ourselves the best way that we can. So how do we do this? So I put together these little tips to kind of help you practice if this is an area that you're struggling with. Prepare, practice, and purpose. Let's look at each one of these really quickly. So preparing for self-advocacy begins with understanding what it is that you want or need in a particular situation, who can help you to get it, and how do you go about asking for it. There's a right and a wrong way to ask for what you need. And in corporate environments, you really have to make sure that you've got the right air cover in place. And by air cover, I mean, who are those people well-positioned in the corporate structure who might have more power or influence or authority than you, whose buy-in you can get before you go out in the world and ask for whatever it is you want. So if there's pushback or blowback or whatever, you've got their support, and that's a card that you can play in your back pocket if you need to. So who else can you engage? And this last point is super important. How do you authentically cultivate those kinds of relationships? Networking is a two-way relationship. It's not just about you finding people that you can go to ask for help when you need help. That's the worst kind of relationship to do. And if I'm one of those persons, and I've been that person to some people, there's some younger professionals who come to me only when they need something. And it's like, man, and you hate to see those people coming because it's just a one-way relationship. However, the best time to cultivate those relationships with those people is when you don't need anything from them. Send them an article, ping them on LinkedIn, just say hi. Can we grab coffee? Can we do virtual breakfast? Can we have virtual lunch together on a Zoom call or whatever? So cultivate those relationships when you don't need them in an authentic way, mutually beneficial kind of a way. And know your rights and your resources. You'd be amazed like at how many people have never read, and I won't ask, have never read their company's employee handbook. So they don't know what the work from home policy is. They don't know what the car service at midnight, if you work in New York and you're trying to get home, they don't know that what kinds of policies and things that they're entitled to ask for. Well, they don't know what's allowed because they've never read the documents. So understand what your rights are and what resources are available to you inside your organization, and don't be afraid to take advantage of them. Practice. Practicing is about getting organized to engage and have that conversation. I do a whole unit in my coaching practice around structuring necessary conversations to make sure that you can be heard. I mentioned a few minutes ago when I was prepping for this meeting with this president, I wasn't going to be swayed. He could have said anything. He could have started talking about unicorns, but I had my message all planned out and I was going to say what I was going to say regardless of his reaction. And so I structured my conversation. I went in there, I said my piece, and that was that. And sometimes that's what you have to do, especially when it's a necessary conversation, which sometimes we perceive as difficult. And you want to practice actively contributing in meetings. A lot of times we're afraid to speak up or whatever because it feels salesy. We don't want to be a pest, and for all the reasons that you guys just said in the chat. But in your next meeting, practice asking a question. VPs and higher love, they're question askers. If you've ever been in a meeting with somebody at the VP level or higher, they ask tons of questions. And it's not because they're, trying to, be the grand inquisitors with you. It's just because chances are they've got a view of the organization that maybe you don't have, and there's projects or things happening that you're not even aware of, and they're trying to connect the dots between what's happening here in their meeting with you to something else that they're working at. And if you ask those right questions, they'll be like, oh, that person has an intellectual curiosity orientation just like I do. Maybe they would be good for this project. Let me find out who they report to and what's the conversation around them and everything. So practice just asking a question. Or volunteer for a stretch assignment, or volunteer to help with something, volunteer to work on a piece of the project with other people to expand your network inside that organization, or just contribute to the conversation by confirming a fact. Yes, the projections are 30% for next year and not 25%. It could be just that simple, but practice having your voice be heard. And embrace facts and passion. Like I said, I've worked with a lot of people in corporate America. Or how many of you guys know this guy? He's fiery, he's, and he's all fired up, but management loves him. And you're just like, yo, if I acted like that, they'd be calling security on me. Well, and then when you call it to somebody's attention, they're like, that's just Joe. He's passionate, right? Well, how can you be like Joe if you're inclined to be like Joe? Chances are, people like that who are successful in corporate settings, they tend to lead with the facts. And so if they feel strongly about the facts, their emotional delivery around those facts is viewed as passion. Whereas the rest of us, a lot of times we're talking about how we feel or what we think or what we believe, how we feel about something or whatever, and it's viewed as emotion. And emotions, don't really have a great home in corporate America. Passion does, okay, but not emotions. So I could do a whole unit just on that, but I won't because we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to move on. So bring the facts, and it's okay to embrace your passion, but lead with the facts. And finally, purpose. We're going to talk a little bit more about purpose in detail, but it's about trusting your gut and understanding, asking yourself, what's the risk if I don't speak up, if I don't advocate for myself, if I don't fight for this? And know and live your why. Understand why you're even feeling some kind of way about this thing, why you want to advocate for whatever it is, and like why is that important to you in the first place? Because that will help you gauge, you know what, is it worth it? Yes. If it's not, okay, that's fine. So that's just a few little tips on practicing self-advocacy. And as we prepare to break out for a couple of minutes again and do some more networking one-on-one, I just want you guys to think about these questions. What's one thing you can do to become a better, more effective advocate for yourself? And what's maybe one thing that's stopping you from doing so? Calling that into your awareness is really important. So, just chew on those questions and do some sharing and thinking on these questions as you head back into your breakout rooms. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to reconnect, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Let's pick this back up. So that was just a short conversation about self-advocacy. So the next tool in the toolkit is intentionally investing in building your team. So like I said earlier, I didn't even know having a team was like a thing. Okay. And so what do I mean by a team? So these are the key players who you need. Every successful executive that I've ever met or worked with has these people on their team. And we're going to look at them one at a time. So some of us already have these first two or have had these first two people on their teams, which is how you've achieved some level of success already in your career. The first is a trainer. And a trainer is like a college professor or a teacher or somebody that helps you to develop a new specific skill or develop a new competency or to hone and get even better at an existing skill that you already have. So most of us have had great training, right? Either in college or grad school, or even some of the best companies out there have amazing training programs where they sort of teach you how to do the job and their way of doing things. So most of us have trainers in our lives or have had great training. So that's there. This isn't where the gap is on the team, right? The next person on your team that you need are mentors. And almost all of us, if you're on this call, you probably have one, if not several mentors in your career. And a mentor is somebody who's on the same journey as you, but maybe they're a little bit further down the road than you are. And because of that, they're in a unique position to share insights from their experience to help you move along that road to get to where they are. And almost all of us have great mentors or have had great mentors. A lot of times mentors start off as our managers, and maybe as our manager moves on to another opportunity, they reach back or they give us advice or they give us, good counseling or coaching or whatever. Or maybe it's not your immediate boss. Maybe it's somebody at your boss's level, or maybe it's somebody at your level that might just have a few more years of service at that particular organization or in a particular role than you. But most of us have mentors, right? So what some of us don't have, I know I didn't even know this was a thing until I started working with C-level executives on a regular basis, are coaches. And a coach is somebody who basically gets paid to help you show up as the best version of yourself. And most of the coaches that are out there, the Tony Robbins of the world and stuff like that, they typically guide you through some sort of a transformation process. And what I've learned is every C-level executive that I've ever worked with no exception, they all have coaches. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Every CEO I've ever met has a coach. Famous example of a coach, those who remember Magic Johnson in his early post-NBA career days, he used to do a lot of interviews, and communication wasn't really his strong suit. It wasn't. And kudos to him that he was self-aware enough. He got himself a coach. It was a coach to help him learn how to navigate live interviews and, you know, and communicate more clearly and more effectively. And because he realized that that was a skill that he needed to develop, but it wasn't just about training him because he had that. A lot of it was mindset work that he had to do to just even, you know, wrap his heads around the fact that he's one of the best in the world at what he does, but he still needs help, right? So anyway, every CEO that I've ever worked with has a coach to help them sort of kick the tires, you know, check the BSO meters and just make sure that they're grounded or whatever their issue is, to help make sure that they're bringing the best version of themselves to work every single day. And the reason why I thought coaching was expensive. I used to think that coaching, like regular people like me, couldn't afford coaches because everybody that I knew that had a coach was like some bigwig CEO, executive type and stuff like that. And it's just not true. There's all kinds of coaches out there, regardless of the kind of transformation that you need, whether it's mindset work in a professional development context. There's relationship coaches. I have a friend that's a divorce coach, quite frankly. You know, there's all kinds of coaches. There's weight loss coaches, all kinds of, so whatever transformation you're struggling to work your way through, you don't have to go it alone. You can get a coach, and a coach is somebody, and you might have different coaches at different points in your career, and you might have different coaches that specialize in different things. But all of us need coaching in our lives, from somebody that's an expert in the transformation that we need to happen and not necessarily an expert in the situation that we're going through. And so even if you have these first three, all of us need sponsors. And again, a sponsor wasn't something that I was ever familiar with, was a thing, but your sponsor is probably the most important person in your team, but they're the hardest ones to find. And a lot of times you might not even know who your sponsor is, and you might not even know them personally. But a sponsor is somebody who has a seat at the table when you don't, and they can speak for you when you are not in the room. And this can be a mentor, a coach, a client, a colleague. And often, I know for me, often it's been it's been somebody that I didn't even know. Opportunities came my way and I was like, how did so-and-so tap me for this role? I don't even know her. You know, but they see your work, and then they go to your manager, your mentor, whatever. They go to somebody who does know you, and they ask, you know, what's the conversation around Liz? What's the deal with that? Or who did this for you? Oh, really? And how are they to work with? And blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, like, so there's all this conversation happening about you between your sponsor and maybe your mentor, your manager, you know, or people that you know. And then all of a sudden, but you don't see any of that. And then all of a sudden an opportunity falls out of the sky and you're like, whoa, how did I get asked to do that? Like, so sponsors are critical. And you know, they're people develop them by golfing with people and building those relationships and being, you know, viewing networking as a two-way street, because you never know who your sponsor is going to be. You never know what conversation is going to take place at the table where you're not, but somebody who's going to advocate for you there because they saw the great job that Darren did, you know, with the webcast series, or they saw, you know, what Angie did, you know, the last time she, you know, managed a project or what have you. So sponsors are a critical piece of the success mix. And I've never been part of a corporate sponsor program. I've been part of a lot of corporate mentorship programs, ton of those, but sponsorship is probably the most important piece of the team. And it's the least talked about and the least taught piece of your corporate success journey that there is. But you need every last one of these people on your team. And so the way to gain the sponsor's attention is to do all those things that you're already doing, but to be a little bit more intentional with gaining that visibility by practicing self-advocacy and building those relationships and making sure that, you know, you're asking those questions and that you're positioning yourself and building your brand and getting that visibility, because you never know who's watching. So that's your team. So I want you to just kind of think about, you know, who's on your team? What roles do they play? Are you good in the training area? Probably in the mentor area, but maybe you need some help in the coaching or the sponsorship area. How will you find those people? And if you need sponsors, which we all do, how will they find you? All right. And I'm going to try to recreate these breakout groups. The technology is like stressing me today. But I'm going to send you guys back into your breakout rooms to contemplate these questions just for a few minutes. And I'll give you 5 minutes, and I will see you in 5. Welcome back. And the last tool in your toolkit that we're going to talk about today is knowing your why, or purpose. And purpose is really important. And for me, it's foundational to like everything. And this is the definition that I use in my coaching practice. So for me, purpose is something that you love to do or you're passionate about, but it's also something that you're good at. So it's the intersection of basically 4 different forces. So for me, as an example, those who know me, they know I love to sing, but I'm horrible at it. So singing probably has nothing to do with my purpose. Maybe learning not to sing is probably closer to my purpose. So it's an intersection between what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world really needs, and what you can be paid to do. So at the point of intersection between your passion, your profession, what you're proficient at, your vocation, right there in the middle, that's your purpose. And while that definition might, you know, it seems kind of straightforward, it ain't easy. That space in the middle is really small, and sometimes it's really hard to define. And why is it so important? If you haven't seen this TED Talk by Simon Sinek, Start With Why, check this out afterwards. And the reason why purpose is so important is because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he provides some phenomenal examples of how this is true, which I won't get into at the moment because we don't have enough time. But suffice it to say, major corporations invest tons of money and human resources to articulate their purpose. And typically it takes the form of a vision, mission, or value statement. So if you work for a company or an organization that has some flavor of this, a vision, mission, or values, just let me know in the chat, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and we know. But basically your vision statement for any company is about articulating at a high, almost altruistic level where you're going. The mission speaks to how the company or organization plans to get there. And the corporate values are sort of the principles that they govern how they operate by. So if your company has any flavor of this, or you're aware of this, you know, just say yes or yep, sounds right, or something like that in the chat to let me know that that you understand what I'm talking about, and that you've seen some kind of flavor of this before. Yeah, okay, I'm getting a couple of yeses in there. Okay, cool. So, but you don't have to take my word for it. Let's just, for the sake of having a little bit of fun and making this interactive, here's a purpose statement from a very famous company. And if you know this company, or guess what this company is, if you can guess the brand or the company, put it in the chat. To bring inspiration to the world, to every athlete in the world, and asterisk, if you have a body, you're an athlete, right? So is this a car? Do you think they sell cars? Of course not, right? Because that would not align with their mission. And Esther is absolutely right. It's Nike. And when you think about their mission, you can quickly see how it impacts what they sell, right? They sell gear and shoes and clothing and equipment and stuff like that for athletes. Here's another one. to inspire and nurture one cup and one neighborhood at a time. And you see the corporate values over there to the left of the screen. Can anybody guess what company this one is? So if you haven't guessed already, this one is for Starbucks. And if you think about Starbucks, and they use words like one cup and one neighborhood, nurturing, inspiring, where everyone is welcome, right? You know, you start to think about why they call their stores cafes and not restaurants or stores or locations. They call them cafes because everything that they do, the whole reason why they write your name on their cup is to cultivate this culture of warmth and welcomeness, you know, that's aligned with their vision, their mission, and their values. And I love the Starbucks example because I don't know if most of you, some of you may remember about a year or so ago, there was this horrible incident where these two Black men were asked to leave a location in Philadelphia where they were meeting a third man who I believe happened to be white about a real estate deal that the three of them were working on. And they were asked to leave the establishment, and it sparked off this whole thing around racial injustice and insensitivity and stuff. And Starbucks responded by shutting down like all of their locations for like two days of diversity and inclusion training and stuff. And because I do marketing communications PR for a living, you know, I was fascinated by how they would respond, what messaging they would use. And without exception, every single one of their C-level executives that was quoted in the press came back to their values. That action does not align with our values. We want everybody to feel welcome, and we have to act with courage and respond so we can grow together. We are committed to transparency and dignity. And I was like, whoa, that like verbatim tracks to what their corporate values are. So I love the Starbucks example because it shows how your purpose, your vision, your mission, your values can not only help you guide your decision making in terms of, you know, what you do, what you decide to do, but if you get in trouble, it gives you an anchor to come back to when things aren't going your way. It gives you a good true north to come back to in the event that you might get into trouble. Here's another one. To refresh the world, inspire moments, create value. I don't know if anybody knows this one. And here's why they do it, right? That's their mission. And they put this right on their website. So you don't have to take my word for it that vision, mission, values, purpose, and understanding your why is important. This company is one of the most successful companies in the world. And it says our vision serves as a framework for our roadmap. It guides every aspect of our business by describing what we need to accomplish in order to continue and to grow. So there's a bottom line direct impact for how they live these 3 bullets every single day. Anybody know who this company is? Okay, if you haven't guessed, it's Coca-Cola. Now it makes sense, right? Now it's obvious. I'm seeing some head shaking, you know, in the thumbnails and stuff like that. But, you know, so if, you know, the Coca-Colas of the world, the reason why, you know, this is part of the secret of their success is they live this every single day and they see bottom line impact and bottom line value to doing so. I think this is the last one. They want to be the most customer-centric company on earth. And I don't know if anybody knows this one. If you think about the most customer-centric company you know, and this one is Amazon. Yeah, very good. Allison got that one right. And they too explain right on their website, not the one that maybe not you, but your friends might shop from time to time. Not that version of their website. That's their market-facing website. But on their corporate website, they put this, they have a very similar statement, just like Coca-Cola, about it unites our people and it governs how we operate. And that's what these 2 paragraphs to the left talk about. So they take their mission very, very seriously because purpose matters. So why does purpose matter? Okay, that's all good for Nike and Coca-Cola, but why does that matter to me as a professional? What's that got to do with me? You might be asking, right? Well, here are just a couple of reasons. What we focus on tends to expand. So having a clear purpose statement as an individual, as a professional that governs your personal brand and how you're building your personal brand as a professional helps to ensure that you're focusing on the right things. Too many of us get caught up saying yes to everything that comes our way, and maybe it's not right for us. We saw at the beginning of the presentation, college might not have been right for us, but maybe we did it because that's what we were trained to do. But if we were really in touch with our purpose, maybe we would have seen that our calling was to build a church, or to start a business, or to do something, or go into the military, do something else, right? So understanding your purpose provides you with a true north that will help you guide your decision making. And this one may sound a little bit strange, but I could tell you from my own experience, it takes all of the emotion and hence the fear out of certain situations, especially negotiations. I do have a day job, and the day job I have now, I turned it down 5 times before I said yes. Why? Because I was clear on what I wanted and what I didn't want to do. And I was like, nope, I'm planning my exit from corporate America. So whatever my next opportunity is, it has to be conducive to that. It's got to let me eat, and I had these criteria that align with my purpose. And I knew, and if the job didn't fit, I was going to say no, regardless of what they said. And I said no 3 times, 4 actually, if we're going to get technical, but I turned it down several times because I didn't think it fit. And each time I turned it down, they were like, whoa, what else? Why are you turning it down? I said, well, because of this, and this. And for each one of those thises, they came back with something else, and they met every single one of those things. So my no went to a yes, but on my terms and on my conditions, because I negotiated from a point of purpose. And so I wasn't afraid if they walked away, because I was like, it's not right for me anyway, right? So, and that's a very true story. And I could tell you, if I had tried to play hardball and negotiate like extra money and flex time and whatever, and some of the things that I wound up asking for and getting, I never would have been able to do it, because I would have been scared. I would have been like, oh my gosh, what if they say this? What if they call my bluff? But no, it gave me confidence. And I was just like, no, I knew what I wanted, and it didn't fit. So no, yeah, nice try. I appreciate your generosity, but no. And there was no, thankful for the opportunity. Oh, I'm so gracious. All these things that we've been talking about. So anyway, I share that just to say, when you're clear on your purpose, it can help really minimize fear and emotion out of certain situations, so that you can approach them from a point of confidence and say no without guilt, fear, or anything. Or if it's not a hard no, you can get to a yes, but on your terms and your conditions. I actually got our first dog that way. I share the story all the time, and my husband and my kids are like, oh, you gotta tell the Django story. But we have 2 really big Italian Mastiffs, and before we got the first one, my husband and kids were like asking me, can we have a dog? Can we have a dog? Can we have a dog? And I was like, no, because the dog is going to create more work for Liz. And no, like, I can't take care of any more creatures right now. So we had this family meeting, and we went around, and I said, okay, convince me to have a dog. So my husband was like, come on, I just want a dog. And I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. I couldn't argue with him, right? So our daughter was like, well, she gave me the love him, squeeze him, name him George, from Looney Tunes kind of thing. She was like, I think this dog will be so cute and cuddly and fun and whatever. And I was like, not good enough. And then our youngest, who was probably around 8 years old at the time, he's like 17 now, but back then he was just like, well, I think having a dog would help me, would help to teach me responsibility, because I'd have to feed it and walk it and take care of it. I was like, darn it, go to your room. You're too logical. I can't debate that, right? So anyway, after much negotiations, I said, okay, here are my terms and conditions. And so I went from a hard no to a yes with terms and conditions. And I said, as long as the dog doesn't create any more work for me, you all have to feed it, clean it, pick up after it. And I only have to deal with the dog when I want to deal with it, because I could take care of 3 of you, not 4. So the minute the dog creates more work for me, one of you gets voted off the island, and I don't care which one. And yes, the dog gets a vote. And basically that was how the conversation went. And we wound up getting the dog. And Django is like 7 or 8 now. And everybody has, and those terms and conditions have held. It's even applied now. We have 2 big Italian Mastiffs, and the same rules of engagement apply. So I deal with the dogs when I want to, but they're not an extra responsibility for me because I negotiated that up front. Now I gave you a serious example, so I had to give you a fun one too, but just being clear on your purpose, being clear on what you will and will not accept is key. So let's see, I'm just checking the chat to see what's going on. So here's a couple of questions as we break out one more time before we wrap up. And I just wanted you guys to think about these, right? How can you walk in your purpose with more intention? What's stopping you from doing so? Maybe you're not even clear on what your purpose actually is, or maybe your purpose, you were clear on it for 10 years and now you're entering a new phase in your life and you've got to recalibrate and do that difficult, mindset work and that soul searching and understand and rediscover what your purpose is now. But how can you become more clear on your purpose, and how can becoming more clear about your purpose help to advance in your career? Those are just some thought starter questions as I reopen the rooms for just one more quick round of networking and sharing and reflection. And I will see you all in 5 minutes. I just want to close out. Purpose to me is a foundational element. It's become so important because it sort of getting more clear on my purpose as I've gotten older and progressed through my career has literally, it sounds so corny to use this kind of hyperbole, but it's true. It has literally changed my life and the trajectory of my career in the most wonderful and unexpected ways. And I even named my coaching practice Purpose-Filled Coaching because I feel so strongly about the importance of coaching. So I put together this purpose action planner. It's like 30 some odd pages. It's free. It's on my website. And it goes deeper into the 4 forces that you need to identify to uncover your purpose. I've thrown in 13 or so purpose prompts, and these are questions that you can explore deeper for yourself to clarify which of those, what aspects of your life fit into those 4 circles so you can find the intersection. And then the last part of it is really designed to help you write and articulate your personal purpose statement. So I break down what goes into a purpose statement and how to write your own. And it's on the freebie section of my website. I'll drop the link in the chat, but I have a bit.ly link too. So it's Purpose Action Planner. So I invite you all to grab that. It's on my website. It's free of charge. And I think it's been a really helpful resources. I get a lot of emails about it. It's probably the #1 thing that people hit my site for to get. So I encourage you to grab that if you like. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and take any questions that you might have. If you have specific questions for me, just go ahead and drop them in the chat if you would. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Okay. All right. Darren, I'm not seeing any questions. So I just want to thank Darren and Phyllis and the United Way of Greater Union County DeWanna Graham in particular, your board member for Women United, for connecting me with you and helping to create this amazing opportunity. I've completely and thoroughly enjoyed our time together this morning. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here. With that, Darren, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. Awesome. Well, first off, thank you, Liz, so much for coming and spending this time with us this morning and sharing your knowledge and advice. To all the attendees, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope that you can take some bits of knowledge that Liz shared this morning and use it to achieve even more success in your careers. As a part of that thank you, we are actually going to be donating copies of Liz's book to 5 random attendees. So if you are one of those 5, you will be getting an email from me. So please be on the lookout for that. And with that, I will be handing it over to Phyllis for some closing remarks. Phyllis, I think you're on mute.
I should know better, right? Right. So let me get my remarks up here. So first of all, I want to thank Darren for all your hard work in putting these series together. I want to thank Liz. What an incredible time we had here. It really kind of refreshed some of what we already knew, and also introduced us to some newer and more powerful concepts that really we need to be reminded of every single day. And it's not just women, right? So it should be any one of us. But, and going forward, these webinars are a part of a series to continue to provide professional and personal development. So I ask everyone to please be on the lookout for our next event in the future. Darren and the United Way and the board does a great job in supporting these efforts. Again, to find out more about the United Way and Women United, and to become a part of helping our local members, children, local mothers and children, because our big focus is on maternal care and child care, please visit uwguc.org/women-united. And it's in the chat. Liz was kind enough to put that in there earlier in the chat box prior. So we have still a few more minutes before 11. So for those who have to leave, they certainly can. Or we can still have a couple rounds of networking, up to you. I'll now hand it back over to Liz. But thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We truly appreciate it.
Great. I will be here until 11, but it sounds like we want to do some more networking. So I'll mix up the group so you all can meet some new people. And there's no prompts, there's no anything. Just, just take this time to get to know each other and network. And we'll do it in 5 minutes. I think we should probably have time to do two rounds of it before we sign off. And if you have to go, you have to go. But thank you all so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Thank you all. So let me recreate these networking groups automatically. And off you go. Oh, you guys are so wonderful. Thank you so much for all the positive feedback in the chat. I truly appreciate you. So I'm going to send you back into the networking, and I'll see you in 5. Sounds like everybody is back. And we've got 8 minutes left, so I think we could do one more round of networking. Is that okay? And okay, Darren's giving me the thumbs up, so that means that I'm good to go. So I'm going to reshuffle the rooms so you can meet some more people. And I'll see you in 5. Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to get a Brady Bunch view shot. This is just me being fun and having some fun, so I could show everybody what I did today. So awesome. Great. Well, I think everybody's back. Phyllis or Darren, I will give you all the last word, but thank you again for this amazing opportunity. And I want to thank the 15 of you for hanging in to the very end. So Phyllis
Yeah.
or Darren, close us out.
I just once again want to thank Liz and all the participants and all the wonderful men and women that joined us today. And please take a look at our website, look for future sessions. Very powerful. We're very, very proud of this work. So visit our Facebook page, visit our link, visit Liz's link, buy her book. She's awesome.
Thank you.
Darren, any last words?
No, I think you covered everything. You know,
Awesome.
thank you all for tuning in today.
Thank you, everybody. And have a wonderful day.
Yes.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.